Okay, good morning, friends. It is Monday morning, which means it is time for another Pokemon podcast. I am Criv Gaming, and welcome to the show. So, this morning we are going to be joined by the one, the only Naff Gaines. We will be introducing him here shortly. But, before we get to it, friends, as always, remember, it is a great day to make it a great day. So let's kick things off with a little bit of Tell Me Something Good.
Tell me something good.
Beautiful friends, in our Tell Me Something Good today, I would like to give a big shout out and congratulations to Alex, who got accepted into the first college that he applied to. Congratulations, this was the main school he was looking to get into, so congratulations, Alex. Also, we have quite a few viewers who have recently hit their affiliate goals. Congratulations to the Snatty, as well as the others who recently hit their goals. Lastly, gonna give a positive shout out to the wife who has continued pushing through her interview process. Again, she is getting into the final interview here within the next few days. We should know exactly what is going on here soon. So, shout out to the wife. But friends, that is what we got with the Tell Me Something Good. If you want to tell me something good, make sure you check out the Discord in the information below.
Tell me something good.
Okay, without further ado, friends, we are going to go ahead and introduce our guest today. Although he needs no introduction, but let's go check him out. Awesome, the one, the only Naff Gaines in the house, who still lost to Criv 4-3. If you checked out the most recent YouTube video after a 3-0 comeback, I'm gonna bring this up every time you're on here. But what is going on, Naff? Welcome. How are you doing this morning?
Guess so nice. I was asked back twice. How are you doing, Criv? I'm doing wonderful. So it's near enough midnight my time, but I am energized. I'm ready to talk about Pokemon and everything else to do with Nuzlocke.
Absolutely.
How are you doing, Criv?
We're doing good. We're doing good. I cannot complain. For those of y'all who need the reminder, Naff is also a Twitch streamer. Again, find his link below. You will find it there. He is currently joining us from China still. It sounds like he is moving back to the UK, you said, here in a couple weeks. So we are excited to get him back on normal people time. Rather than, that way I don't have to call him in at midnight. He has also joined us with another amazing Pokemon outfit. He beat me up with the hat last time. Now he's playing the villain here. We got some Team Rocket Naff in here. But Naff, what do you have coming up on your channel here soon, friend?
So right now I'm doing Getting Over It and Jump King. I'm in a weird part where I'm doing games that really raise my blood pressure. So after the success of Super Monkey Ball 2, we're going for some struggle games, but also, and kind of relevant to what we're talking about tonight, I'm working on Cardlock 2, which is the sequel to Cardlock 1, which was a unique Nuzlocke run-through that I created myself. And beyond that, what can I really say? I'm just always looking to be doing something new, something that, resembles what you might know, but with my own twist.
I gotcha. Very good. And friends, again, Naff is honestly probably one of the most enjoyable Twitch streamers to watch. If you want to be laughing, if you want to be involved in what is going on, Naff does a fantastic job about that. So make sure you go check him out, and do not give too much information on that card lock, because we will be getting to that shortly. But before we do, we got to talk about what's going on in the news. So let's hit this up for a second. Hopefully that didn't blow your eardrums out that time, Naff. I apologize for the previous
I've not heard any of the sounds.
Honestly, thank God. Okay, good to hear, good to hear.
Yeah.
So friends, today in Pokemon news, breaking news, if you will. Many of you have heard and seen in the news previously that there is a group of followers playing Pokemon Red in a certain content creator's profile picture on Twitter. They have just defeated the 4th gym. Naff, what do you think about this? My first thought is, I can barely get people in my chat to agree on something, let alone allow hundreds of people to control a game to a point that somebody's just not going to troll it out. What do you think about that, Naff?
I mean, the first thing that I thought of when I found out about this is it harkens back to the Twitch Plays Pokemon days, which I think was maybe the peak of Pokemon on Twitch. I think that was the best that it's ever been when it comes to actually getting people in there and getting people excited about Pokemon. So I'm excited to see that it's kind of gone further than Twitch, and now it's on Twitter in a form that, let's be honest, who's thought about updating a profile picture every 15 seconds to play a game? It's very, very well done, and it's a unique idea. But my thing is, and maybe you can agree or disagree, did you watch Twitch Plays Pokemon as it was going down?
Never. I mean, you got to realize, before I started streaming, I had not stepped foot onto Twitch. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. But okay. No, I have not seen it.
Yeah, I can quickly explain. So Twitch Plays Pokemon, it happened several years ago, and essentially it was the same idea where chat would put in commands into the chat and automatically the player would carry out those commands. And at the time, it was the biggest thing on Twitch. People would be tuning in every day to see the progress that was being made. There were kind of memes and characters and stories being told through that, because obviously the names couldn't really be legitimate. Right. But just by mashing the keyboard whenever a Pokemon was caught, the new kind of like characters would develop. So there was a Venomoth that they accidentally spelled like ATV on. So there was just loads of fan art of like Venomoth being anthropomorphized into a four-wheel drive. And then you might have heard of like Lord Helix, which the birth of that was Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that. I mean, I hear about Lord Helix all the time. That's actually incredible. I mean, that's a little information. I'm sure a lot of other people probably didn't know that either. So, hey, we're already learning this morning.
So that was kind of, that was day one. That was like the amoeba of the internet controls a Pokemon game.
I gotcha.
And at the time, it felt like it went on for the longest time because there was so many stories going on and so many memes and so much fan art. Right. I looked it up just as we were getting ready for the stream. It went 16 days. It felt like a months-long process. No, it was 15 or 16 days.
Wow.
Which is a very short amount of time, but it was just so jam-packed with content, it felt like it was going for longer.
That's insane.
And there was a sticking point. So we got to the Team Rocket hideout, where there was the spinning plates and sliding puzzles and things. And at that point, the game progress ground to a halt. And then they brought up a new mode called Democracy Mode. And the game would alternate between Anarchy and Democracy.
Okay. And
essentially, Anarchy, whichever command was the last one done whenever the game was updating, it would go through. Whereas Democracy, it was slower, it was every 10 seconds, and the command that had most votes would be the one that went through. So there were two modes. One, you could be a little bit more strategic, and the other was just absolute chaos, and you just hope for the best.
Interesting.
So this Twitter thing, it is based off of the Democracy mode, and to be honest, I would love to see the Anarchy mode get brought back. So I think if there was to be another iteration of this, bring back the Anarchy mode, because that is where it was really special for me. And when we brought in Democracy, this is going to sound really bad out of context, but I wasn't a fan of Democracy.
You were not a fan of course. Naff says it here. Naff is not a fan of Democracy, everybody. For all the Americans on stream here, let's take note. No, I'm just kidding. I absolutely agree. Now, Naff,
that looks really bad when you think about the country I'm in, isn't it?
It really does not go well with where you're streaming from, Naff, but that's okay. I also think this kind of loops back around to the Fish Plays Pokemon. I think it's just one of those wacky ideas that I don't even know how somebody comes up with, or programs, or, again, I'm in business, I know absolutely nothing about technology, other people help me set up my OBS and stuff like that, like, I am useless. But I just think it's a nice little twist, and I think it's good to continue to put Pokemon in the news with stuff like this. I think Pokemon needs to stay in the news. Again, they got 25th anniversary and stuff like that, but outside of that, there's not much going on with Pokemon in the news. But if you can get others interested, and even just watching something as stupid as an avatar picture, go check in every once in a while. Pokemon is still on the front of their mind. They're going to want to get back into the game. It's going to help the franchise survive for longer.
Yeah, because I think you're right in that Pokemon does have almost a longevity issue, and that's insane because last time I was here we talked about the 25th anniversary, but the core audience is growing older, and the core audience are the people that are creating the content that is most interesting now.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about that Twitter account in the Discord earlier, and it was showing like interviews, and the head of Game Freak said that the games are being made easier. because
Correct.
they're contesting with an audience that has a slower attention span or a smaller attention span.
And there's so many other games
because
out
of that,
there. Yeah, exactly.
And because of that, like kind of like the core audience, the audience that has the money, but not necessarily Game Freak is focusing their energy on, has to make the content. And I suppose this links very nicely into our Nuzlocke discussion, doesn't it?
Exactly. This actually goes perfectly. So
yeah.
we're actually going to cap the news off here. That is Pokemon in the news, friends. Every week we will update you with what we think is the most up-to-date Pokemon news. Might not be accurate, but hey, we're doing what we can. So that's Pokemon in the news for this week. Perfect. Now, Naff, I'm going to bring out a key point in something you just said, which is Pokemon games are becoming easier. For our generation, they're being made for people who are younger, naturally, which they should be. It's a kid's game. Let's not argue this one. They're being made easier because attention spans are lower. These apps and etc. are coming out with instant gratification type games that you don't have to try as hard with. So Pokemon is naturally following suit so it can continue some longevity. Now, for our generation, though, we decided to take things a little bit differently. Today, we are going to be talking about the art of the Nuzlocke, how we go about approaching it, where the Nuzlocke even came from in the first place, different iterations of it, and where we think the Nuzlocke can go. So, we're going to start off at the beginning and where the Nuzlocke founded. Now, Naff, I told you about 2 minutes ago, but before that, did you know where the Nuzlocke originally started?
All I knew is that it had something to do with a guy who went by the name Nuzleaf, and that's because for the longest time I heard the term Nuzlocke get thrown around without any real context.
Yep.
And I was like, why is everyone doing a Nuzleaf run? Is it where you only use Nuzleaf? And I was super dumb about it until eventually I found out that it was something completely separate.
Exactly.
So I'm not too aware.
Well,
so please.
we're gonna learn today. You know what? I learned a little bit from you. You're gonna learn a little bit from me. The Nuzlocke originated back in 2010. A gentleman by the name of Nick Franco, don't dox him, it's online, I'm not giving out somebody's personal information, but a gentleman by the Nick Franco decided that Pokemon became a little bit too easy, and so he set up the original set of rules, which is, number 1, you can only catch the first Pokemon on each route. Number 2, if a Pokemon dies, it stays dead. And number 3, you have to nickname your Pokemon. Those are the base rules that came through from the original Nuzlocke. Now, you are correct in where the name came from, but impartial. Again, his favorite Pokemon, a lot of what he used in his comics, he was actually an artist. He actually made comics and stuff out of his first playthrough. Had a lot to do with the Pokemon Nuzleaf. Now, from there, they're thinking that it got kind of mixed in with John Locke from Lost. Now, I have never seen Lost. So, again, Criv knows nothing about this. But some sort of iteration, and that is where he originally named it the Nuzlocke. From there, we see it today where the Nuzlocke has exploded with multiple different iterations, multiple different tasks you can do, and multiple different points of view on what a Nuzlocke should be and what is entertaining. Now, before we get to all the iterations, all the different rules that have been added, let's talk about the Nuzlocke at its core, Naff. Back in 2010, what do you think the reaction was to something like this?
I think that there's a few ways to approach a Nuzlocke, and we've got to kind of look at the internet through the lens of 2010.
Yes.
Because right now, we approach Nuzlocke through the lens of a streamer. But to kind of hold yourself accountable to the rules of a Nuzlocke, to an audience of just yourself, I think it would be very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Because I've played a game multiple times and I've set these rules upon myself, and then I'm like, who's watching?
Exactly.
You know? So
that one really didn't die there, did
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, a crit doesn't count, surely. So to kind of hold yourself accountable to an audience of yourself is kind of, it's impressive, and it takes a level of discipline that I definitely don't have.
Correct.
Like if I was playing a Pokemon game by myself, it wouldn't be a Nuzlocke, or if it was, it would be a Nuzlocke with an asterisk after it, because there'd be no one to hold me accountable.
Correct.
I don't know if this is something that we're going to cover, but I think it's worth mentioning that approaching one as a streamer is different, because as a streamer, it'd be very hard to justify streaming a non-Nuzlocke game, especially like an old Pokemon game, because how do you justify being a viewer and going to see someone that's playing the game at less than its, ideal form, or less than its most challenging form, or less than its most exciting or interesting form?
Exactly. Now, I will, that's a good comment, because actually in my community, we've discussed things like this, just when we're talking about what the community wants to see out of me as we're continuing to grow as a channel, as we're continuing to play. Again, the overwhelming majority goes with some sort of Pokemon challenge run. If we're talking mainline games, and that's, we're not going to get into the side spins and stuff, because that's a completely different conversation. In the mainline games, I have gotten a couple requests just to see how I would approach a normal playthrough, what kind of team I would build with my own views. Now, I think that's going to be a thing eventually, because realistically, let's be honest, that takes a couple hours. That's you could realistically get through one of those runs in one stream. It's not, it does not become a series, you know what I mean? It's pretty easy. But I think again, yes, the expectation as a streamer is you're putting something different out there, and you're kind of going through it that way. So we've covered the basis of a Nuzlocke, and we understand that it just goes off of those 3 rules. Now, personal experience, what I have found, and confirm or deny, and I'd like to hear your experiences on this as well, because when we get to the Nuzlocke, the first thing people come in and say, all that will be in my title is, let's say, Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke, which, by implication, means that I should really just have to go through those 3 rules, correct? Now, there's this belief in the Pokemon community of viewership that if you are not turning it into a hardcore Nuzlocke, it is no longer enjoyable. What are your thoughts? That means no items in battle, that means set battle style, that means introducing all of these other rules. I will say that I have gotten a lot of flack from viewers who don't stick around because I don't care. Previously, in previous Nuzlockes that I've done, that I maybe did not do the hardcore rule set against just the base rule set. What are your thoughts?
So I know, don't you play without the items now? Or at least
I do now.
Your
My first 2 were not
two.
that way. My first 2 were not that way.
I've never had that issue.
Really?
And
Okay.
I think that we're almost jumping the gun, because randomizer and Nuzlocke go hand in hand as well.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that a Nuzlocke without a randomizer would work? Or does, by definition, is a Nuzlocke randomizer as well? Because I think that it is. The idea that you catch only 1 Pokemon per route in a base game is almost worthless, because you're either going to be using the dupe claws multiple times because you catch 15 Talos,
Right.
or you're just going to have the same Pokemon over and over again. So I think randomizer, that is almost it is to be expected. But as for the hardcore rules, I wouldn't say it's to be expected. At least I think set battle, I think that is harder to justify. Having shift on, and to be fair, in my card lock, I did have shift on just because I forgot to switch it for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then at the end, someone's like, "Hey, you've left something out." I was like, "Okay, yeah, you got me."
Exactly.
But...
I think it depends. I really think it depends, Naff. And here's where I think we go with it. I think a randomizer is... it depends on your skill level. The first thing, I have a lot of people that come in and ask, where do I start? Where do I start with one of these? Oh, should I do all of these rules? The answer is no. If you have never done a Nuzlocke before, I recommend you don't randomize it. I recommend you don't do hardcore rules. You take a game you know and start thinking that strategically where you build off of that. Now, people like us who have done multiple previously, we need a little bit more of the challenge. We need a little bit of different stuff going on, because let's be honest, just a base Nuzlocke, both you and myself and people who have been doing Nuzlockes should not have a problem with at all.
Yeah.
Let's just talk base Nuzlocke rules. You're doing Pokemon Platinum, whatever, which is one of the harder ones to do in general. But just base Nuzlocke rules. You can use items in battle. You can use switch style, just the base 3 rules. We should not have a problem with that. That should be pretty easy, because the only thing that kills you is a crit. The rest of it, you can pretty much work out. You can use stall tactics. There's plenty that you can use there. I view the randomizer necessary for myself. I'm not going to say what other people should do. I view the randomizer necessary for myself if the rest of the rules do not add difficulty to the challenge. Now, I think on a base Nuzlocke, and I just did one of these, and we'll get a little more into this when we go back to the types of Nuzlocks and stuff like that, is like I just did the chat lock, where there were rules in there that made my life honestly a living hell. A randomizer would have made it suck even more. I didn't even finish. I have not been successful in that run attempt in multiple attempts. I've made it to the Elite Four and lost. You know what I mean? And I know what's coming. So I think it depends on your rule set. I don't think randomizers are 100% necessary. I think they add a different element if you're not making it challenging in different ways.
Yeah. And one thing that I'd never even thought about until you approached me about this idea of the art of a Nuzlocke. But there's a bell curve of difficulty in Nuzlocke runs, in that, let's say the first 2 badges are pretty difficult. You know, you could be hit with a Wonder Guard, you could get hit with a Dragon Rage if you're randomized.
Yeah.
After those, it's pretty safe sailing until the end. There's definitely a bell curve.
Yeah.
But I found in my card lock, and I'm guessing you found in your chat lock, that for as varied as the game is, the chat stays consistent, and if the chat wants you to lose, they're going to forever want you to lose.
Correct.
So the getting over the bell curve and keeping it entertaining, I think, is important in the Nuzlocke, and I think that is why a lot of these rules exist.
Correct.
Because I think that I believe there's probably a bigger community of streaming done for Nuzlocks than just Nuzlocks for the challenge, just playing to yourself. I think that a majority of the Nuzlocke runs being done are being streamed.
Right, exactly. And I think, and you'll see if you probably look at, I agree with your bell curve, because I think if you look at, and I know people in the chat are saying, but I've lost in the middle 16 times. It happens, but I would probably venture to say a majority, if you look at a percentage of failed runs, a majority of them are probably before the first gym. And before and at like the Elite Four, or like, you know, final stuff going through. I would venture to say a majority of them do fail in that sector. Now, again, I'm not going to say I haven't lost at a 6th gym. I have. And I'm sure you probably have too. You know what I mean? At some point in some of your runs. But I agree with your bell curve of where a majority of those deaths probably take place. So with that, we've kind of laid down what the Nuzlocke is, where it came from, kind of our views on it, and we introduced randomizer. Let's talk about the specific rules that people tend to add in, and let's just talk basic rules. Let's not necessarily go into like talking about wedlocks and stuff like that yet, but I have a couple in mind, and just throw your way. Number 1 is no items in battle. What's your view?
Honestly, I could take it or leave it. I feel like I could beat the game with that rule in place, but I almost prefer not to, in that it's just a layer of strategy and just another thing in your toolbox. And, you know, I like the idea of, you know, you go out your way in a cave and you find an item, and that item saves your life later on in a battle. Yeah. I like that. And my thing is, when I'm streaming and when I'm playing games, I like to tell my own narrative, and it just gives me another hook to use in my story. It just gives me a tool to pull out. So I wouldn't say that I necessarily don't employ it because it makes the game easier. I couldn't do it without that rule, but I like that it just gives it throws something else in. How do you feel?
So on my end, and you know that I play a lot without them on my side, just personal preference. And somebody actually made this comment in chat literally 2 seconds ago, so I 100% agree. Not using items in battle does not allow you to have a misstep at all.
Yeah.
You can literally throw this so quickly with one dumb decision where maybe a full restore, a super potion could have undone your bad decision. You know what I mean? I feel like using no items in battle, because it layers with there are other rules that I would put in place before this, and we'll get to them. But I think putting no items in battle makes you have to strategize at a higher level. Now, I could be wrong, because again, you don't get that misstep. You need to make sure that your Pokemon have moves such as Recover, Protect, Wish. You got to make sure you have some sort of stall tactic, because you can't just sit there and throw super potions on yourself for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think it opens up a larger move set that you need to actually be using compared to what you would normally use. Because if
it might... Sorry, go on.
No, you're good.
I think that also maybe it falls into like an inverse bell curve, because in the middle of a game you've got to be maybe a little bit more cautious when buying items from shops. So I play with items. Right. And therefore I'll go to a Pokemart, and I've got a tight budget because maybe I don't have so much money. Yeah. But towards the end of the game, you just buy full restores or full heals and the best potions imaginable. Right. But in the middle of a game and the start of a game, you have to be a little bit more frugal, and you have to be like, what are the chances that I get paralyzed? Well, if I do get paralyzed, I can live through it, but a poison would actually kill me. Right. So I think that there's a couple of ways to go about it. To be honest, I can't say that I've had too much experience doing no items in-game, so I might be a little bit ill-equipped for this rule. I can't really have a conversation on it. Everything I do is just from not having played a rule as opposed to having played a rule.
I got you, but I think you have a good reason, because again, on your channel, you're all about telling a story, and I think that's awesome. I think that's something you do very well, and you implement that into a lot of your streams. So if you can, like you said, add that to your narrative, that's fine. And I think that's good. You know what I mean? That's how you choose to approach it. I unfortunately don't have those skills. Wish I did. I don't. So I think it's one of those things where I can't necessarily add creativity, I have to add difficulty. And I think that's one of those rules that goes around with it. So now let's talk to another rule that and I will say most people employ this one. This is probably the first rule that people will employ, is set versus switch. Now, my point of view on set versus switch is it's a lot more difficult than you would think. When I first came back to Pokemon, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean? And I tried my first Nuzlocke. It's like, set battle first, style first, switch. That's no big deal. It's a problem. Because if you don't guess the AI and you don't make the good decisions based on the AI, you went from maybe just losing one Pokemon to you just killed 2 to 3 because of, again, a dumb decision where you maybe don't have potions, you maybe don't have the right items. So I personally think set versus switch is the first rule Nuzlockers should add beyond the base rule set. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And even though I did have the misstep where I forgot to switch it over, no pun intended, but I think that is a very good point, especially since, and to take it in almost a cynical or a dark way, okay, I think that you can use excess Pokemon as tools in the Nuzlocke. Let's say that you have like a Tailo that's garbage,
Cannon
but
fodder,
you might want to keep it in the party just to have a safe switch in by letting it take the hit. Yeah. So I think that it adds an extra layer of strategy, and that's something that, again, long-term storytelling, you can have a Pokemon that's sacrificed itself, which is cooler than be like, oh, I knocked out the Pokemon and then I get a heads up and now I know what is coming up. Like, it's a lot cooler to have that kind of switch over and to have to essentially think about a Pokemon that you're going to have to sacrifice. If you know like a self-destruct is coming in and you don't have a ghost type, you're like, who can take this? Yeah. Or who can I stand
to Do you not have that rock wall there sitting there to take it, or are you going to have to send it? Yeah, you're going to have to sacrifice somebody. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very good, very good. Now, again, yeah, I agree. Again, I literally name my Pokemon fodder most of the time that I know are going to be those sacrifice Pokemon. Let's be honest, there's useless Pokemon in games. And we'll actually get to that later in a form of a Nuzlocke that actually came through as a ROM hack. But I think we're lying there. I think if you are a Nuzlocker looking to add a new challenge to yourself before you get crazy with it, see if you can manage through set and switch. It changes the game a lot. It makes it a completely different Nuzlocke. And you brought... Okay, so the next thing I think we touch on, and you brought this up before, and we've kind of touched on it, kind of the last, like, overall arching rule before you get into other types of iterations of the Nuzlocke, is going to be randomization. It allows... My view on randomization, I love it. Because it allows you to use Pokemon you never would have probably used before. Which, Nuzlocking in general does that. You know what I mean? Let's face it. We've all used Pokemon. It's like, I've literally never used this in a playthrough. I'm going to use it. I think Octillery was one of those Pokemon recently where super strong. Now I know. Well, let's be honest. It evolves from Remoraid, and we've had our discussions on Octillery before. Yeah. But it's one of those things that's like, I never would have used this because I'm not leveling up a Remoraid by the time you can get one, which is at like level 40 most of the time. You know what I mean? You already have your team set. So I think it opens up some of those Pokemon that you previously would not have used. Now, randomizing as a whole, Also, there's multiple different ways you can randomize it. Everybody's used the Pokemon Universal Randomizer. You can make this game as difficult or as easy as you want, but I think randomization definitely adds a little bit of flair to it. I think you can over-randomize. I definitely think there's a point where you can mess with the game too much, but I think it's a good addition. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, not all randomizers are built equally, and I think that each game has its ideal randomization form, and I'm still looking for that. And I think I'm getting closer. The closer I've got to perfect was actually my first completed Nuzlocke.
Really?
And that was a random run that was sent to me, and I need to ask the guy what the settings were because it just seemed perfect for what I wanted. But every time since, it just felt a little bit off.
I gotcha.
So, like, you know, to get into like the really nitty gritty, you've got like global 1-to-1, area 1-to-1.
Yep.
And I think I'm like an area 1-to-1 person.
Area.
When it comes to the Pokemon. But the main thing is, do you randomize trainers?
As far as their Pokemon used?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I have an idea. Let's do it this way. Let's actually go step by step through the randomizer. I don't have it pulled up, but I've done it so many times I can probably tell you, essentially. We can start with trainers. I do randomize their Pokemon. I don't randomize, like, the names and their actual trainers themselves. Do you normally do that?
I randomize the trainers themselves because I think that you've got some moments of comedy there where, like, your rival that's named after your, like, streamer friend is, like, female swimmer Bonnie, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I get that.
That literally happened in my Fire Red playthrough.
I get that.
But as for the Pokemon, I'm very torn about it because if you over-randomize it and they just have like legendary Pokemons, it gets very, very scary very quickly, and you can be taken out. That's kind of unfair.
I gotcha.
But at the same time, I feel that if you do type randomization, you get very, very samey trainers in that, like, how many youngsters are in the game?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'd say 40% of every trainer, of all the trainers are youngsters.
Yeah.
And if they are, like, rock types, you're just going to see a Geodude every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and also another thing is, you get to the Elite Four, and the Elite Four, firstly, you need to prepare for the Elite Four, especially in, like, the Black Elite Four, specifically. I've never played Black before doing it on stream. I was sure the Elite Four is easy. No! You need to prepare specifically for them.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about strategy, I like having that heads-up knowledge.
Okay.
So I'm not a fan of randomizing the trainer Pokemon, but at the same time, I understand the benefits of just finding an insane trainer. I like that it can happen. Okay. I would almost prefer it if you could randomize the non-important trainers, but the trainers that are important for the story or
gym leaders, rival
pertinent
fights, Elite Four.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want those randomized. That would be my ideal, because you could plan for it, and also you would never feel really cheated. Because let's be honest, you're never going to be taken out by a youngster. But the most pertinent fights are the most dangerous ones. Yeah. So I would love a partial randomizer for the trainers, where you could randomize everything but the most important trainers.
I gotcha. Okay, very good, very good. Now again, we talked where Pokemon are at. I agree with Area 1-to-1. Global 1-to-1, I don't know. I don't love it. I feel like it randomizes it more with Area 1-to-1 rather than Global. Just because then it truly is, you don't know what you're going to run into, you know what I mean, at all. Now, if you know, okay, well, after running through these bushes, I know that Pidgey is now a Cryogonal. Like, you know, anywhere, we've all played through these games enough where it's like, I know there's Pidgeys on this route, that route. Well, I missed the Cryogonal here, but I'm going to try to force it over there, you know what I mean? I think it takes out a little bit of that randomness. So I agree with the Global 1-to-1 there. What is
then you've got the actual hellscape that is complete randomness for wild Pokemon.
Absolutely not.
And I tried that, and it was just hell on earth, because let's say there's like 5 possibilities for Route 2, and that's just more possibilities for something insane like an early shed ninja.
An area trap Salamence or something like arena trap Salamence on a wild Pokemon. I think that hurts the ability to grind, which is unfortunately super necessary in a Nuzlocke, and we've all been there. You know what I mean? I think it destroys that part of it. What are your thoughts on using legendaries in Nuzlocke? Because I think this kind of hits the randomizer as well.
Yeah, I don't mind because the randomizer, it gives as good as it takes.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, you're guaranteed to get certain Pokemon in certain places in a normal playthrough, and you can kind of tailor your team around that.
Right.
That's been taken away in a randomizer. So if the randomizer gods want to come down with a Mewtwo, I'm going to take it.
Absolutely.
And I'm not just saying that because my Emerald are pretty much balanced on the Mewtwo I caught on Route 2 with a Pokeball. Like, I think that at the end of the day, you're welcome to play by any rules you wish. And honestly, if you're going for a very random randomizer, let's say evolutions and abilities and stuff, there are things more powerful than a Mewtwo.
Oh, absolutely.
There are things more powerful than a Giratina.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, let's say you've got a Slaking that doesn't have Truant.
Had it.
It's insane.
It was stupid. I've had that on my team before.
It's so fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's insane. It is, because we've talked about. It's like the 7th strongest Pokemon above Mewtwo and like a lot of those other Pokemon. So I agree with that. Again, legendaries. Again, the trainers. I've gone into trainers that have had 4 of them. You know what I mean? Why can't I have 1? And I think I agree with maybe don't have your whole team legendaries, but I don't. I try to maybe use 2 at max. But again, if I have to go fight another team that has all legendaries, why the hell not? Because to be fair, I've killed just as many legendary Pokemon as I've caught. So they clearly are not indestructible. But
interesting thought experiment with this.
Yeah.
So when to delve into a little bit of my card lock, there was a card that let you create a Pokemon. I had the cheat code for every single Pokemon pulled up,
right? And
if you pulled that card, you could create a Pokemon, and then I would catch it, and you could name it yourself, and that would be kind of your mark on the run.
That's awesome.
And most of the time, it was a legendary. So these legendaries, even though people are like, oh, they're cheap, oh, they're so powerful, oh, they get Draco Meteor, people still love them.
Yeah.
People still have a lot of reverence for Dialga.
Exactly.
Just as much as they have for, let's say, Pikachu.
Right. I will say the saddest moments of the Nuzlocke, even for my chat, most of the time when I kill a legendary. They get attached to them too. You know what I mean? They might talk shit about it, but at the same time, they are just as upset every time I kill one as I am. You know what I mean? So I think I think legendaries add something else. I think I have one. What was I gonna do? Okay, yeah. Last one for randomizers. What do you think about increasing trainer levels or difficulty by X%?
It's difficult because we're talking about the bell curve. Middle of a game, most of the time you're over leveled.
Yeah.
And that is just how Pokemon works. But towards the end of the game, they catch up. The trainers start to snowball. And because of that, I just leave the trainers as is.
Okay.
I think that the Nuzlocke by itself is it's difficult enough, and simply just to give a couple of rare candies to each trainer Pokemon, it's just artificial difficulty. The difficulty isn't necessarily the levels, it's the strategy. And just having to grind for an extra half hour for each Pokemon, it's not fun, it's not engaging. If anything, you could potentially do the exact same thing, but everything be lower. And it would be the same thing because the experience would scale back and your own Pokemon would scale back. So I think level is it's a non-issue.
I agree. After using level up, level enhancement on some runs, my thought of it is why? We're going to get into another rule here momentarily, and then we'll get to the iterations of Nuzlocke. Just checking time, making sure we're still good to go. I felt it as my level cap went up as their level cap went up. So what's the difference between 2 level 15 Pokemon fighting and 2 level 17 Pokemon fighting?
Yeah.
Strength should still be linear, you know what I mean? Now, maybe I get an extra evolution out of it or something like that. So maybe there's some cheese there.
Or
Maybe it's almost...
move.
Right, maybe it's actually making it easier. You know what I mean? With the fact that maybe that starter Pokemon originally would not have been able to level or evolve, but since you gave him a 10% increase and your level cap moved with it, then you get a second form evolution when you originally had a first form evolution. So looking at it, if you really dive into the rules of it that normally goes with it, I don't think it makes the game harder. I think it just makes the grinding harder, and I think it just makes it a little more annoying. But I think it could actually make it easier for the person playing the Nuzlocke. So
yeah, because I doubt that the randomizer is so elegant that it would upgrade like the moves or evolve a Pokemon that would have already evolved at this point.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, it's not a really elegant program.
No,
it's
and absolutely. I mean, again, you can still get
around.
a level 50 Magikarp regardless whether the difficulty's been increased or not. That Magikarp's still going to be there. It's still going to be a Magikarp. Maybe it's level 55 now instead of 50. You know what I mean? And it's just pointless.
Yeah.
So the last rule I actually did want to touch on was level caps. Have you used them before?
I haven't. It has been suggested to me, but for me, like if you overlevel a Pokemon, it will eventually come to bite you.
Yeah.
So I don't play by the level cap rule because if I'm overleveling one Pokemon just from overuse, eventually it's going to bite me. Either the type isn't going to match up, or I'm going to lose that Pokemon just from using it too much.
I got you.
And as such, I pay the price of that.
Right.
So, like, let's say I have that Pokemon that cheeses everything. It eventually you're going to get bit by it unless you go even further beyond.
God forbid you
kill
it.
I'm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I.
So I wouldn't play by that rule.
I use the rule mainly because it then forces me to use my entire team. I think it pulls me away from that, oh crap, I caught a Mewtwo. Let's just put this thing 10 levels ahead of everything, and even a dark Pokemon probably still won't kill it. But then at the same time, it stops me from being in that situation where when it does, because I kill everything I touch, I then am screwed and everything's under leveled, and I'm gonna have to go back to cities and get stuff beefed up and kind of work through it that way. So I think
I just prefer to self-regulate that way.
Yeah.
I also don't like knowing what's in the gyms because I'm not at a point where I can be like, oh, so Brock's highest level is 16. I don't like to research that.
Okay.
So I'd rather just kind of self-regulate and know that if I'm not being balanced, eventually I'm going to get bit by it.
I gotcha. Perfect. So those are some of the additional rules that we normally see and added in, or we've added in ourselves. Let's talk about different iterations of Nuzlocke. And again, friends, we got about probably 20 minutes left, and then we're gonna close this thing up. But we've still got a good bit of time to talk through this. So, a couple main ones that we've seen, we've done. First one is going to be a monotype Nuzlocke. Now, this one's pretty self-explanatory. You can only use one type of Pokemon, whether that's water, grass. Now, you can use the dual typings. You can get a water ground. You can get the Whiscash. You can get a Lantern. You know what I mean? You can switch things up there. What are your thoughts on monotype Nuzlocke?
I feel like monotypes, you could very quickly run into a wall where your options are overlevel or just die.
Yeah.
Because let's say that you're playing by the other rules of the Nuzlocke. You're going to either be very low on Pokemon, or your Pokemon just are not going to, let's say you've got Wishcast and you're going up against a grass gym. There's no chance
Absolutely.
unless you completely overlevel.
Correct.
So that it just invites grinding.
Hope for some speed, hope for some toxic
grinding,
cheese, something like that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree. I think it'd be interesting to do. I have not tried one. It's definitely one of the things on my list to give a shot, because I think it'd be fun, just to see what we have to do with it. I don't know. I think you can do a lot with it. Again, I think it opens up. You could do a monotype run in the same game 12 different times, and it still turn out different every single time. I think it's one of those Nuzlocke iterations that you can't only do it once, because you will approach the game completely differently if you only have water Pokemon versus if you only have fire Pokemon. So I think those normally fall as a challenge run rather than a Nuzlocke, and somebody in the chat just said the same thing. I think those normally fall as challenge runs, but I think a monotype Nuzlocke absolutely adds a little bit of complexity. What about a Soul Link? So I'm currently doing one of these with Journey Home. And it's interesting. It'd be a lot better if our schedules lined up better, because then we wouldn't be doing this over 4 weeks, which is no fault of either of us. It's just where it is. Yeah. I know Journey has suffered a lot more than I have, because we had one stream where I killed 12 Pokemon alone. I killed 12 Pokemon. So I think the dependency on the other player/streamer definitely comes in a little bit. But I think it's a cool concept. I think if you're going to do one of these, though, find a streamer that you can knock this out in streams in a row. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that with a Soul Link, the content doesn't necessarily come from the game itself. I think it comes from the chemistry that you have with your co-streamer.
Yeah.
And as such, I wouldn't necessarily say that the rules that you need to go like too much into, because the rules are secondary, the gameplay is secondary.
Exactly.
The stream where you killed 12 Pokemon, that's probably the most memorable stream to your viewers.
Oh,
it's probably the most memorable stream to you. It's probably the most memorable or infamous stream to Journey.
Yeah.
And as long as you have that chemistry, you can make good content in it. But as for actually challenging gameplay, I think that it is probably more frustrating than fun. And that is where the good content comes from. Yeah. But I think that you can make content that is fun for the viewer, fun for the streamer. In a Venn diagram, there's very little that is in the middle, though.
Yeah.
At least for the most part.
I agree.
At least for like 99% of the time. You know, I can have fun in my card lock, but there is that time where chat comes in and ruins me. And I'm like, oh no, why did I ever start this thing?
Yeah.
So I think that the entertainment value comes from things going wrong, and as such, it's not a competitive Nuzlocke. It is just a casual. It's a nice podcast idea, actually. To be honest, it's a nice kind of just hang out with a friend and chat, and sometimes get angry with each other. And I think that makes for good content. As for whether it makes a good competitive strategic game, I'm not too sure.
Right.
But I'm a fan of it.
I agree. Now, I didn't go over this, and I apologize. Basically, the rules of a Soul Link are similar to that of a Nuzlocke. The only difference is each Pokemon you catch on the specific route are going to be timed. So, Naff, if you caught a Zigzagoon on Route 2, and I caught a Rattata, if you kill your Zigzagoon, my Rattata dies, and vice versa. That's essentially the rules of the Soul Link. So you actually got to keep track of where you catch what, because periodically later in the game, we could be on the 8th gym, and it's going to be crap, what Pokemon did you catch with that Zigzagoon? You know what I mean? I just killed it.
Yeah.
And I think my biggest recommendation is make sure you have somebody that you can banter with well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I 100% agree. I think the content comes from your interaction with the streamer. Make sure you got somebody you vibe with. Make sure somebody you can do it well with, because I think that can hurt it if not. So, again, Soul Link, if you haven't tried it, definitely give it a shot. I would recommend doing it with somebody you know. That's kind of and you know what I mean? Beyond just like, hey, I watched your stream once.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, a couple other of these, I got them written down. I'm looking at a list here, guys. I cheat. I apologize. My memory sucks. A couple ones. The last thing, we have Wonderlocks, which is Wonder Trade Nuzlocks. That's been a more popular one since Sword and Shield has come out. I've seen a lot of Wonder Trade locks or Egg locks or something similar where your Pokemon are decided on what you get. Now, my view is this is just a randomizer. Personal preference. All you have done is put a randomizer into that game, because you can get good Pokemon from Wonder Trades. I know I've gotten shiny legendaries from Wonder Trades. You know what I mean? On Pokemon Sword and Shield. Like, for some reason, people throw this crap in there, and that's fine. But my view is, you just found another way to make a randomizer. I don't think it's necessary. What are your thoughts?
No, I completely agree. And on the other level, you know, if you're playing a randomizer and you're Wonder Trading as well, you're just putting out like garbage into the internet.
Yeah.
Like someone has to retrieve that Pokemon as well.
Right.
I don't know. Can you randomize Sword and Shield or not?
Maybe. I haven't found it. I haven't tried. Here's the deal. There are supposedly places you can play Sword and Shield online on an emulator or something like that. I personally do not know.
But like you've got to go into a dark alley and the guy opens up his trench coat and hands you a USB,
you know
that type of thing.
And dark web and the FBI starts looking at your computer, stuff like that. Also, hello FBI man, I know you're watching me. But I think I don't like the bait. You can't. It's a Switch game. You know what I mean? It's already technically online, and most people stream it straight from the Switch. So I don't believe it's possible.
Okay, in that case, I think it's very, very important, because otherwise you can't necessarily have a randomizer in that game. So as much as it is identical to a randomizer, that randomizer isn't even an option in Sword and Shield.
I guess that's true. I guess you make a good point. Now, but to be fair, the game has not been out. It's been out at what, 2 years now, year and a half? It's going to start popping up on emulators, let's be honest. Somebody's writing the code for it. Somebody's doing it. It will soon. My estimation would be for the next year, you're going to be able to play it on an emulator. So I think it'll be...
Very optimistic.
I know how the internet
very
works.
Optimistic.
People, it's been COVID. People have been bored. Some
I
person
know, I
in
don't
their
think
basement is
can
writing
you
this.
I mean, it's probably like a dark way. Is the Wii U broken yet? I thought that the Wii was the most recent console that...
There's Switch
you could
games currently
use
that
on
you can get
PC.
online. There's Switch games that you can get on an emulator. So I've
Okay.
been told. So it's definitely a possibility. But
Yeah.
okay, so we have some others. We're actually gonna do our 2 iterations last, Naff, and there's some others on here that are not normal that you think would be interesting, and I think would be interesting as well. No one-hit KO Nuzlocke. This is one of the ones that you brought up previously. Hit me with it. Why?
Yeah, so the rules of this one is that if your Pokemon one-shots another Pokemon, whether that is due to a critical hit or just being over-leveled, you have to release it. It is dead too. Which I think it adds another layer of complexity to the run. And I really like that one. Like, we're talking about level caps, making it so that you don't over-level.
Right.
But in essence, that's what a no one-hit KO run is as well. It stops you from over-leveling, and also you can have... It flips everything on its head. You're always hoping for a crit, apart from in this. You're always hoping to get Flamethrower to upgrade Ember. With this, maybe not. And I think that it is the most transformative rule set that you've sent me that we've not created, that also isn't completely overbearing and doesn't change what the essence of Pokemon is. How do you feel about that?
Here's my argument. All you're doing is forcing people into using Toxic, Protect, and Wish. It is... You can win a game without hitting another Pokemon. It is not hard. All of us could do it. You know what I mean? Now, I think that's where that one leads me to first thing. It's like, how am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to make sure I have a crap move on the Pokemon, and then I'm going to one-shot it. So I think it maybe...
Yeah.
My argument is that I feel like it only adds maybe one extra hit. Now, I think, looking at that could be very bad. I mean, we've all been in situations where one extra hit kills us. You know what I mean? But I think... I don't know how difficult it would be without some of the extra rules and stuff like that. I don't think it would be that bad. I could be wrong. Maybe I try it one day and maybe you try it as well. But I think, yeah, that's kind of my point of view on it. Do I think at one point I would try this? Yes. I think it depends what other rules you mash with this. I think with the base Nuzlocke rules and just a one-hit KO, I'm not concerned about it. You know what I mean? It easily should be a one-shot, a one-playthrough run.
I mean, yeah, I think that goes back to just our styles. You are more strategic.
Yeah.
I go into a Pokemon game, I'm like, hit Pokemon with hammer. Oh, I can't hit Pokemon with hammer. Hit Pokemon with hammer lightly.
And then hit them with
whereas
hammer.
you're just like,
Yeah, exactly.
give Pokemon radiation and allow it to die over time.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a strategic thing and just a difference of opinion that way.
I got you. No, absolutely. I agree. The other one that I saw, which I thought was interesting, and I think it's already kind of there, is what's called a loser lock, which is essentially, talking is hard, you can only use first 2-form evolution Pokemon or single-form evolution Pokemon, which means you can use a Rattata and Raticate, but you couldn't use like a Bellsprout Victory Bell or Weeping Bell Victory Bell. Can't use something with 3 forms. This kind of exists in a ROM hack. Have you ever heard of a trash lock?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so I think this one goes hand in hand with that. The Trash Lock is essentially a ROM hack of, I think, Pokemon Emerald that has all of the Pokemon that nobody ever uses in it. We're talking Zigzagoon and Furret, or whatever the evolutions are. Linoon. We're talking Sentret and Furret. We're talking Rattata and Raticate. There's no Metagross line. There's no Alakazam. There's no starters, like that sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's a lot of bug Pokemon. I think it goes hand in hand with that, because there are some single-form evolutions in that, too. I mean, you can still... well, it's not really single anymore, but you can get a Magmar. You know what I mean? You can get a Jinx. Now, mind you, they have the baby Pokemon form of them, but you can still get strong Pokemon, but I think it's just kind of thinned it down a little bit to that, which I think is an interesting concept, and it is something I'm going to play. Because, again, I love getting to use the Pokemon I haven't previously used. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when it comes to using Pokemon that you haven't previously used, it's a cool idea, but I think that the best thing about Pokemon is the breadth of variety, and to take away from that is kind of, it spits in the face of Pokemon. And also I think that if you're going to be doing something along these lines, the ROM would have to be made for it, because it would be the worst content, I think, being like, oh, time to get our new Pokemon. Oh, it's got 3 stages. Let's run away and hope we get a second stage Pokemon.
Yes.
Like, I think that it is something that it's transformative to the game and not necessarily in a good way.
Right. Okay. I absolutely get that. I can work with that. I agree. I think running something like the modded trash lock that is already out there that you don't even encounter them, I think that's the way to do it, rather than doing the loser lock rules where it's like, yeah, oh crap, I have to run away from every Pokemon out here. You know what I mean? Because let's face it, most of them are multi-form evolutions. So, very good. Now, Naff, you have been doing something called a card lock on your stream. This is not something I had seen elsewhere. Again, we had a discussion before where, because I have one as well that I have not seen elsewhere. Somebody has probably done something similar to it, but it's the internet, and I think we do keep coming up with new things. Break down, what is your card lock? How did your playthrough go? Because you finished, I think, maybe?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
how did it go?
I need to
What was
add
your
my second
experience?
padlock to my necklace, actually.
Okay, there you go. How did yours go?
To explain how it actually came about, we lost Pokemon Black the first time. And we lost at the start of the week. We lost on the Tuesday, and I was like, damn, I need to go live on Wednesday. I need to play the start of Pokemon Black again, which, for whatever reason, I was just dreading. I was like, I'm going to have to go from, the highest height, from the top of Kilimanjaro, all the way down, and be like, okay, let's pick our starter again. I was like, I need something. I need like a little bit of je ne sais quoi to kind of spice it up a little bit.
Yep.
So what the card lock is, it is based off of channel points. And for, I believe, 350 was the amount that we settled on in the end. You could draw a card, and this card could be a Pokemon card or a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and each card had a different effect. And over time, as a member of chat, you would build up a deck of cards that you could then use to affect the game in any way that you want. And these effects were things both in-game and out of game. So there was a card that would put emote-only chat on for 1 minute. There's a card that would make my webcam really cursed and make me look like a horse. There were cards that made Pokemon shiny, or you could create a Pokemon. You could straight up just kill 2 Pokemon. You could revive Pokemon. So it very quickly, it became more than a Nuzlocke. I would say it probably ended up being easier than a Nuzlocke. But at the same time, it had more moments that I aspire to create as a streamer.
Okay.
So it was successful in that way. But when it comes to creating a challenge and running, there's a lot that I would do differently, and there's a lot that I will do differently in Cardlock 2. I've already set the rules out for that, and the rules are they are more punishing, I would say. And there's going to be a little bit more back and forth. I mean, the best thing that I realized from the card lock is that the community will play against each other. Oh, yeah. And it came to a part where, half the community wanted me to win and was helping me, half the community wanted me to fail. And as such, I created cards to help both sides. I created a card that would let you time out someone. And essentially, one of the craziest moments was when there was 2 people in the chat that had big decks, and they were on opposite sides.
We all want big decks.
And then one person that wanted me to lose timed out the other guy and used 4 cards back to back to back, while the other guy couldn't use his cards to counter them.
That is amazing. That is awesome.
He'd been building up a deck for 3 streams, and he was like, you don't even know what you've got coming, but I figured something out. And
that is awesome.
He planned it perfectly, because he was like, oh, I want to make this Pokemon shiny. To do that, I need to go to a Pokemon Center. And so I flew to a Pokemon Center, excited to get my shiny. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm also killing it. And also, because you're here, you can release it now. So he played against both me and the community, and that is a cool way. I've got to
That's awesome.
understand a lot more of how my community works and a lot more about how Twitch works. At the start, like it's been a process, and Cardlock 2 is going to be I don't want to even say perfected form, because Cardlock is just a beta of what I really want to do. And right. I'm working with a programmer to eventually achieve that. Like I'm thinking well beyond the scope of Pokemon.
Hey,
but
props.
I had to change things. I had to change the channel points. I had to change the cooldown of the cards. I had to change how the cards were actually pulled. I had to add rarity to the cards. So the card that just killed 2 Pokemon, it was the rarest card you could have. But also Exodia cards, you collect all 5 and you get VIP. So kind of, I learned a lot through the card lock, and it's the basis of what I want to create in the future.
I got you. Now I was able to join in on a couple of these streams, and I think what you had messaged me or something, and you were like, "Oh, we just lost XYZ Pokemon." And I was like, "Hey, I got to revive. Don't worry, I'll be in the next stream. I'll pick them back up." Something like that. You know what I mean? And it's the chat was very involved, and I think that was amazing. I think that's a big part. That's what we're here to do as streamers. We're here to not only put content out, but people are not going to stick around to their streams if they don't feel like they're included in stuff. And I think this is where a lot of maybe larger streamers do not have as many interpersonal connections with their smaller streamers. Mind you, there's a lot more, so it's harder to do. I'm not arguing with that. If you have 20,000 people in your chat, yeah, good luck reading chat. But like, yeah. I feel like that's one of the things that as smaller streamers, we have to make sure we do, and I think that's what helps us grow.
No, so without doubt, yeah.
I think that card lock, it was definitely unique. I had not seen something like it before. Honestly, I'm excited to see what you have else you can put out there with it. And I think it is actually quite completely different execution style, but I think we both took a similar approach at a similar time. Because on my end, we launched the chat lock, which essentially, the base rules of it, base Nuzlocke rules, again, I added no items in battle, we had level increase, level caps, all the above. But essentially, after every single gym, or before every single gym, before, not after, the chat got to pick and vote on one Pokemon to kill. The way it would work is I would pick my team of 6 Pokemon. I would get to pick 2 keepers. Essentially, you cannot kill these 2, and you vote for the remaining 4 on who you're going to kill. Sometimes they were nice, sometimes they were not so nice, and it definitely probably cost me the run in the long term. On top of that, between rules, between gyms, they would get to put a rule in place for me that I would have to work through until I beat the next gym leader, which would be things like permanent torment, which means I can't use the same move 2 times in a row, regardless. At any point between now and the gym, if I do, I have to give them a free channel point redemption of something. Whether it's Crivcast, Pokemon cards, Cookie Monster, whatever. There would be no purchasing anything at the Pokemart, no spending money, you know what I mean? That was another big one. Again, I couldn't use items in battle as was, so I didn't generally have a good stock of items. So then I'd be like, well, crap, I'm going to lose a Pokemon to poison or something like that, you know what I mean? Because I don't have antidotes. So there'd be a lot of fun rules. And I think it was a great way to get the chat engaged. They would periodically get to bring a Pokemon back. Sometimes the rules would be nice. Sometimes it would be, hey, you get an extra encounter, which honestly saved my butt multiple times. So I think we had the similar goal of just trying to get the chat involved. You know what I mean? And I think the card lock did that. I think the chat lock definitely did it. Now again, is there growth points on both sides? Yes. It was definitely a class system where certain people in my channel had 30,000 points, so they could overrule the votes with just throwing channel points at it. So maybe we need to either remove that or increase it. And just kind of figure out, I don't know. So I think chat lock and card lock were 2 definite new ways to get chat involved or to do a Nuzlocke that I don't think had previously been out there. And I think it's important that us and other Pokemon streamers continue to find new ways and new iterations of a rule set, being the Nuzlocke, that originally came in to make the game more interesting. So
if you were to do the chat lock again, what things would you change? Would you get away from the channel point aspect of it because it was a case of the rich getting richer, or what would you do?
Yeah, so my thought on the chat lock is that it might still be there, but it's gonna be a lot more. Again, it was only 1,000 channel points, you know what I mean? If somebody wants an extra vote, they're gonna have to drain themselves. You know what I mean? Like, That way, because nobody has 1,000,000 points. Like, nobody's going to be out here like, I can buy it regardless of the price. You know what I mean? They'll have a couple of votes, but they'll have to use them wisely. I'm not positive what else I would change. It was I didn't win. Again, this was Black 2, which is already one of the hardest games to Nuzlocke. I lost at the Elite Four, and I lost at Gestus once. You know what I mean? So we made it to the end of the game, but definitely we got hit with that end game as difficult. I'm not positive what I would change. I probably just have learned that I'm going to have to play better if I actually want to complete this. Because I essentially, I can't kill Pokemon on my own. I'm already losing a guaranteed 8 Pokemon. Maybe more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Depending on what rules they put in and stuff like that. So I cannot make the bad decisions that force me to lose Pokemon. And I think that goes with the way, like you said, that's go with the way I run my channel. Mine's based off strategy. Mine's based off going off my gut feelings and stuff like that. I don't do the story mode as much, and I think that's what makes us equally good streamers. You know what I mean? We have different ways that we approach this, and everybody's going to. So I think there's definite room for improvement there, but I think it was a good run again. I think it's important that we continue to push it that way. But with that being said, we are nearing the end of the podcast today. Do you have any final parting comments on Nuzlocke as a whole, Naff, as I get a pack of Pokemon cards ready?
Yeah, so you brought up the Pokemon dying thing, and that people were voting on which Pokemon to die. Right. And I think that is the thing that I enjoy the most about Nuzlocke. Okay. The fact that people can grow attached to these digital animals, and then there's people that are like, but kill it, because I want this person to be sad. Correct. And then it becomes this like a back and forth style thing. I mean, there was a moment where a chatter had a Pokemon that a card where they could create any Pokemon they wanted, and they wanted to make their favorite Pokemon. And then another chat was like, okay, I'll even make it shiny for you. And then they disagreed on something, and then were like, actually, no, I'm not going to make it shiny anymore. And just kind of the kind of like friendly banter. It was the best part about it. Right. And my favorite rule. Go ahead. You're good. In all of Nuzlocke is the naming rule, because that is how you get the audience involved. That is how the Pokemon bring on a personality that's bigger than the game itself. Right. That is how people build up a connection to the Pokemon, being like, I named this thing. This is mine. I don't want to see it die. And I think that is the essence of why I enjoy Nuzlocke, the naming and the creation of storylines, and that's why I like Nuzlocke that way. Absolutely, and I mean, I know we've all been there when I have people that'll come back and they'll be like, wait, where'd my Pokemon go? It's like, about that. You died 3 streams ago, actually. Guillotine. Exactly, yeah, you died multiple streams ago. Don't worry, this isn't new. But absolutely. So, Naff, we are going to get in real quick. We're only going to do one. We're going to do a pack of Champions Path. We're going Charizard hunting. What is your guess on Guess the Energy? I'm going to say electric.
Electric, okay. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to guess, and I have not looked. It was a nice card last time, I remember that much. It was. So I'm going to guess fire. I have actually not looked. Oh, shit. Okay, I swear to God I did not look at that. But here we go. Fire. We got a Sonia, Liepard, Team Yell Grunt, Purloin, Galarian Lanoon, Sizzlipede. We got a Hatena. I'm off with these names. We got a Nickit. We got a Rotom Phone Reverse, and boo, we got a Lycanroc. Okay, still holographic. Again, holographic guaranteed in the pack. Regardless, though. Did I show the code card? I don't know why I haven't put it. Whatever. Right here. Here's your code card from that one. Again, I was flashing codes earlier. So by all means, if you do the TCG game online, go ahead and check that out. But we're at about the time that we're going to close this thing off, Naff. I want to give you another very big thank you for coming back. Again, we loved having you the first time. The chat loved having you. I love having you here. Thank you for joining us again. We will absolutely have to do this again if it's something you're open to. But yeah, thank you for having me back. I think that eventually we're going to have to do like a feature-length one, though, because I feel like we could talk for so much longer than we get to. Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. So, friends, as always, Criv Gaming here. This is the Pokemon Podcast, Crivcast, the Pokemon Podcast. This happens every Monday. Next Monday, we will probably be doing it a little bit later. I am going out of town, so I apologize in advance. but this happens every Monday, generally around 10 to 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you check out the Discord for more information below, as well as Twitter for social media. You can also find links to mine and Naff's Twitch channels in the description below. So as always, friends, keep spreading the love. Do what you can to make the world a better place. Remember, it's a great day to make it a great day, and we will see you in the next video. Have a great one, everybody.